Which one am I? This one's Kermit. This one must be you.
Sorry.
It is very warm in here. Goodness. There's also a pine cone over here. I know I say this every time. This should be quick.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't bring my cheat sheet. I should have.
Are we ready to go? Okay, just need Ross to sit down. 5:31. Okay, welcome to the January 11th, 2017 Planning Commission meeting. We will begin with a prayer from Commissioner Ross Flom and then a pledge by Kermit McKinney.
Dear Father in heaven, we're grateful to be gathered here as members of Provo City Community Development Planning Commission and members of the community. Father, at this time we ask blessing on all of our local city workers, first responders, as well as members of our military who protect and defend our freedoms. Father, we pray that our minds may be open to hear this item before us this evening, and that we may make a decision that is in the best interest of the residents of Provo. This is our humble prayer in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will everyone please arise and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated.
Okay, we'll have a brief roll call, starting on my left with Brian Smith, and then please state if you have any conflict of interest with the item we'll be hearing tonight.
Brian Smith, no conflicts.
Kermit McKinney, no conflicts.
Deborah Jensen, no conflicts.
Jamin Rowan, no conflicts.
Maria Winden, no conflict.
Ross Flum, no conflicts.
Okay, we just have one item that we will be hearing tonight. I'll read that in. Item 1, Scott Stone requests project plan approval for a 38-unit condominium building located at 538 North Freedom Boulevard in the general downtown zone, the North Park neighborhood. And Aaron Ardmore will be introducing us to this item.
Okay, so just to get you familiar with the property, right there is currently there's a car wash there, owned by the applicant across the street from the rec center here. The intent is to demolish that to build this condo project. So the project consists of initially 36 units. We advertise it as 38 due to the fact that if the applicant's able to get some more property up here in the corner for more parking, he's got 2 more units in the basement that he could finish out there to bring it up to 38. But so initially it'd be 36 units. Proposes to be a 3-story building with an additional basement level of residential units and amenity space. There would be 2 separate community lounge spaces. Let me take you to the floor plans for that. So you see on the lower level and the main floor here, so there's the basement level and there's the ground floor. There's lounge spaces on both those floors. Also on the ground floor, there's amenity space out here with some tables. And over to the north, there's amenity space, which I think at this time is intended to be a shuffleboard, but that could change in the future, but it is amenity space there. And that qualifies for they require 10% for the units as per code. The front of the building would have 3 walk-up units, here, here, and here, where you could walk off the sidewalk into the units through the bedroom door. Behind the project is where they park it. There's 26 parking spaces back here with a 2-way access here. The 2 additional units, as I spoke about earlier, are here in the basement. You can see those are unfinished. Those would just be kept as kind of open storage areas or whatever it may be until he can get that additional space. Staff has reviewed this project for zoning compliance with the general downtown DT1 zone. Has found it to be in conformance with all those city zoning codes. It's currently going through our CRC review with all the staff city departments, and it's pretty close to being wrapped up with that. I think the only one left is our fire department, addressing some of the egress issues from the basement. Here, I think it still shows these ground floor doors opening out over these window wells, which would be the egress for the basement. That has recently been changed to where those would open in to the bedroom, so the door is not going to be open and in the way in case of a fire where the ground floor is leaving and they leave the door in the way of the basement. So that alleviates one concern, but the fire department is still working with the applicant on those issues. Other than that, it has met code, and we are recommending approval. We, in the planning department, believe that this is a valuable development for this area. It's getting to the goals of our downtown zone that we intended. I think its adjacency to the recreation center is a real positive impact on that area. There were some concerns after I wrote the staff report that came in to me through an email. So I just wanted to address some of those real quick in case those are still out there. The one was with the parking. Now we have 36 units and we have 26 parking spaces. That does meet today's current parking code with a 50% reduction for downtown. As this application came in before the discussion of reducing or getting rid of that 50% reduction, that discussion is ongoing with Planning Commission and onto the council in the coming months. But this predates that, so we're going with the current parking code. So they do meet that. Another concern was the amenity space, but as I went through that, they do have the 10%, which staff through recent projects has found to be sufficient with a mix of indoor and outdoor amenity space. Another concern was the setback from the street. So in our downtown zone, there's a minimum and a maximum setback. Minimum of 0, maximum of 10. This building actually has been forced back 8 feet just because of some different public utility easements on the front end of it. So there are actually set back more than what the zone would require. And I think for what would be appropriate with the surrounding. So you have Freedom Boulevard, which is a wide street. And this building only sits 3 stories high. So I think it's an appropriate setback for the scale of the building and the surrounding area. The units, they're all 1-bedroom units between 550 and 600 square feet. That's a good size for a 1-bedroom unit. I think that staff was happy with that, and it does seem like a livable space for the people that would buy those units.
Was that a concern
That was a concern that came through the email, that those unit sizes might not be large enough, but those are actually larger than some of the things that we've built recently. So,
is this from a neighborhood chair or just a citizen?
Yeah, it was from a neighborhood chair.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's it. Hopefully I've addressed some of those concerns. I'm open to any questions that you or the applicant might have.
As far as the setback, Freedom Boulevard currently does not have any bike lanes. And so, I don't know what the future holds for Freedom Boulevard in terms of ever widening the street or adding bike lanes. Right now, I don't think that there is room to add bike lanes as it is currently. It doesn't seem like when I have to pass a person on a bicycle that there's really room for me and him. So I'm just wondering, if there's room to widen it at some point, add bike lanes, and then how this affects this new construction.
I'm looking over at David Day. I don't know if they're planning any bike lanes in the future for this corridor, so I'll let him address that.
It's turned on up here.
While she's doing that, why don't you come take my seat and they'll hear you through this microphone.
Again, my name's David Day. I'm with Public Works here at Provo City. One of the things that we looked at when we were reviewing this project was the bike lane issue, the width of 200 West. How do we accommodate a new structure and plan for the future? And so this 8-foot setback was kind of determined to be the right amount of setback to accommodate future growth of the road in the future and add bike lanes. So even though it's just one property, that's normally how it happens, is one property at a time, and eventually we'll be able to push some of the curbs back a little and add enough room for bike lanes on Second West, because Second West is designated on the bike plan as a bike facility. So we're trying to plan for that in the future.
Thank you.
Other questions for staff? Mr. McKinney?
My wife isn't working either, so I'll speak up loudly. So with respect to the setback as well, not associated to this particular project, but, oh, now it seems like it's working.
Deborah's got you.
Oh, you're
Deborah
coming
hooked
over
you
here,
up.
okay, good. So, but here, interestingly enough, though, with the fact that this exit out, the property's ingress and egress exit onto 200 West, if the setback had not been there, that could have potentially created a little bit of a danger point for the cars moving out, or, moving out onto the roadway. So my question is, do we have in our, somehow regulated in our code, that if we have a driveway that's adjacent to, you're answering, so I'll let you finish that and just answer the question.
Not to cut you off, but yes, yes, we do. We have a clear vision triangle defined in the city code for these types of situations. It's a certain measurement from the curb line in each direction, making a triangle that has to remain clear of any obstruction, building or trees or whatever it may be.
If you look at that drawing that's up there, you'll see that they've dotted that in for you. And I guess one of the side effects of having that setback 8 feet is it does comply with that site distance.
So if I understand correctly, then there could never be a zero setback if there's a drive-in and egress alongside.
If that building moved up the 8 feet, you would have that angled portion that would still need to be clear on the ground level.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you would just design the building for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Just if we can pull out to a kind of an overhead of the whole area, I'm just curious and I haven't studied this out much other than my wife telling me they better not bulldoze the cotton shop or whatever that fabric place is right there. I'm just looking for unintended consequences of lower numbers of parking than the units that exist, and where will those cars that will surely come park? It looks to me like they'll park kind of next door to the north, maybe to the south, and maybe across the street to the west in the rec center parking lot. So I just wanted to see the overhead. So
That's a great question. If I can address that, that's something that we looked at as well. If there is overflow, if people bring 2 cars, where's that going to go? Here we felt pretty safe. You've got commercial to the south of it, commercial to the north of it, which those are dedicated spaces for those business uses, right? So those business owners can put up signs stating, this is only for our shops. So that alleviates there. There's no on-street parking on Freedom. You have to go back here until you start parking on the street on 5th North. There's not a lot of residential in the area, if you look around. So you wouldn't hear a lot of negative feedback on that. If they do park in the rec center, you could see that they have ample parking.
yeah,
I can't see how that'd be a huge issue. I mean, the city's not going to say, yes, park in the rec center parking lot, because that's...
but there's no
that's for the
signs
rec
up
center.
yet, and if it got to that point, they could easily put signs up.
Right, but also the time of day where people would be parking at night and stuff might flow well with the recreation center use. So
Ideally, they all have bikes and 0.7 cars. So
right.
I feel like when we discussed this the first time when we passed it, the original project, that there was maybe even some discussion about an agreement between the owners of the cotton shop. Is there a way to say after a certain period of time, we agree to let you park here? I mean, isn't that what we want? Is shared, maximize the parking spaces.
exactly.
Anyways, so I could be misremembering that conversation.
I don't
but-
think I was here for that one, but
Any other questions for staff? I wouldn't mind knowing, Aaron, just really quickly, obviously, again, as you point out in the staff, and my memory is that we passed a project already because of financing or something along those lines.
Yeah, there were some budget constraints, I believe, to
The
the
budget,
initial.
yeah, budget constraints.
plan.
So what's the change? I don't remember clearly the previous plan that we approved. What's the primary differences between what we're seeing here and what we already approved?
Sure. So before, I believe it was 5 stories, and there was around 54 units with underground parking. And once you start going underground, it drives the cost up a lot.
Right.
And I think he just couldn't get that to pencil, is what I understand. So he's come back with this plan that might work for him.
Great, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, we invite the applicant to come forward and say anything that Mr. Ardmore hasn't covered, or repeat anything that you'd like to repeat.
No, I think you pretty much covered.
If you wouldn't mind stating your name.
My name's Scott Stone, and unless you guys have questions for me, I guess, I pretty much covered everything. This is, like you just mentioned, kind of a scale down of what's already approved. And, we tried to, just like the previous one, we try to make it so that it connects with the architecture of the rec center and now the new power building as well. That was the
Yeah,
focus of the design. When we went to the designers, we said, hey, we want it to match, that look, so.
great. Yeah, I like the design. I like the angled kind of roofs there, the echo, the power building. Great. Any questions for Mr. Stone?
yeah, just one question. Rent, sale, or lease on these?
Well, we're building them as condominiums so that we could sell them possibly in the future. Our intention is to keep them. My wife and I own quite a few units around in that area right now, and so this would be just something in addition to that. And so we have units that are similar to this, a little smaller, and so these ones are actually a little larger. And we felt like that design, we've owned property in that area probably for 23 years now. And I sell real estate as well, but this design really kind of flows with either a young student couple, it also someone who is retired and just needs a little place of their own. That's kind of the target market, single professionals as well. So, but not, of course, single students. So, we have enough single student ones. We don't want more. So.
Ms. Wendy.
I have a question about the parking. Assuming, let's just assume for the sake of argument that young married couples moved into all the apartments and had 2 cars, have any arrangements been made with adjacent business owners to share their parking
No.
after business hours, or?
Found on this size of a unit for a young couple or a single professional is that most of the time they only have 1 car. Most of the places that we have in and around campus for this only have 1 car. The other thing that we kind of looked at as well, I mean, we can cross that bridge if it comes to it, is that we noticed the place just east, which is this apartment building right here, yeah, right there. That's actually a Provo city-owned apartment, and it caters to a lot of, I mean, I don't know, but all I see is retired people there. So, and I have driven by there a number of times over the years and noticed that's about what the parking lot looks like all the time. So there are quite a few people that live there that don't even have cars. And so, you know, at first we were kind of thinking, well, you know, you gotta have like at least 1 stall for the units, but because of that location, the fact that, you know, they've got the, I'm trying to think what it's called, the elderly, used to be the Eldridge Center that was right there, and then they moved it into the rec center.
Senior Citizen Center.
Seniors,
seniors.
thank you. And, you know, with shopping within walking distance of there as well, we thought, well, there's obviously a market for that type of tenant as well. So, or purchaser if we end up, you know, selling these later on down the road.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Stone. If the neighborhood chair is here and would like to come forward and say anything, we invite him or her to do so. Okay. If there's any other neighborhood chairs, they can come forward. Okay. Open up to the general public. If either of you 2 gentlemen would like to come forward, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, we'll return it to the Planning Commission for discussion, and then I'll look for a motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Scott Stone's request for a project plan approval for a 38-unit, the Palladium condominium building located at 538 North Freedom Boulevard in the general downtown DT1 zone in the North Park neighborhood. And in addition to that recommendation for approval, I would include the staff report and staff recommendations that all remaining items from the CRC are completed, that the condominium plat is completed prior to obtaining a certificate of occupancy, and that the DRC committee also approves the final design.
Okay, Mr. Smith with a second. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Approved unanimously. No more items. I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Okay. All in favor? Aye.